Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. We got some breaking news out of Pittsburgh, Matt, and it really doesn't have anything to do with football. Ben Roethlisberger admits that he has battled past addictions with alcohol and pornography. So that's why there's probably going to be a little bit of a positive spin on this year in Pittsburgh, because Ben Roethlisberger is focused and he's ready to play some football. No more off the field issues with him. He said this at a conference for Christian men. So it was virtual, where he talked about his off the field issues and how he's refocused for the season. I actually have some of the quotes here from the interview. It said, "It's not always easy. People don't realize all the time that us athletes, we're human. We sin like everybody else. I am no different. We make mistakes, we get addicted to things, and we sin. We're human. I think sometimes we get put on this pedestal where we can't make mistakes, and I've fallen as short as anybody. I've been addicted to alcohol. I've been addicted to pornography, which makes me then not the best husband, not the best father, not the best Christian I can be."
Fair to say.
So do you think he's focused for this year? Do you think that these changes off the field are going to make an impact on the field?
Well, I'll say this. I don't think that it hurts. I mean, when you look at his history of off-the-field things, I mean, maybe this is his wake-up call that he only has a handful of seasons left. And if he doesn't start making changes, then he's just going to just end on a really sour note.
Well,
so I think...
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to continue and just say that, I think you're seeing that quarterbacks are playing longer and he has the potential to stick around even longer, but he's got to make the changes and do the things to be prepared off the field, because he can't just do the same things he did, as a rookie.
Because that's what I'm looking at right now to see when his motorcycle accident was. 2006, man. So I think my math is correct, and saying that once he focused on football after that first accident off the field, he came back and won a Super Bowl. Now he is a good decade older, way more than that first time. So he's running out of years. I know you said quarterbacks seem to be playing longer, but I think that's false, because you always had guys that hung around the league forever, but they just weren't legendary quarterbacks. You're looking at guys that are just hanging around now that aren't just journeymen. It's not like, oh, Tom Brady is on his 15th team with no Super Bowl rings. The fact that everyone recognizes it now is because of the names of the quarterbacks that are still in the league. I mean, normally the guys get run out in their 30s anyway, if not before that. And you do see some teams that are hanging on, like the Lions are with Matt Stafford. At some point, they have to just say, you know what? He was good, but not good enough. Like, he's a decent regular season quarterback, but what has he done in the playoffs? How many years do you give a guy? Or, at that point, if it is a systematic thing, you have to cut him loose and try to get pieces back for him. Like, the Lions didn't really do anything. So, I could see it both ways. Now you have quarterbacks that are sticking around, but, I mean, we still cycle through so many guys. If you go back through the last couple drafts that we looked at, and like seeing people that are compared from just 5 years ago, most of them are already washed out of the league. And then even a couple years ago, you have guys like Mitch Trubisky that were taken high, and it looks like they're on their last step. So I think we just had a good, decent run of solid quarterbacks that are now going to push and see if this next crop that are coming up are going to be able to last as long. And to be fair, I don't think they are. What are your thoughts on that? Are you there? I mean, he might be having connection issues. I might have lost him. But I'm looking at quarterbacks that are switching to more of a spread offense. And you have guys like Cam Newton that right now, he hasn't had any offers to my knowledge, and everyone's already looking past him. Is he going to be back in the league? I don't know. We're talking about a Heisman winning quarterback going all the way to the Super Bowl. He's dynamic. The Panthers built their franchise around him, but he's out of the league in less than 10 years. And I think that's just going to be the average. I think you see a couple of teams that have had quarterbacks stick around for a long time. And that was just the luck of the draw. I mean, John Elway stuck around forever. Took quite a couple beatings in some Super Bowls. And once he was able to get to the top of that hill, he retired. So it's going to be interesting to see if some of these guys like Patrick Mahomes are able to stick around for a long time. And I think some of that has to do with coaching as well. You know about the Brady-Belichick team up. Does this year end Brady's career? We don't know. Matt, you there? We'll see. He might be disconnected again, but we'll see if we can get back to him. The next topic that we're going to talk about, actually, some of the NFL stuff. We did have one more thing that we'll get into. I'm going to talk about it. I want to get Matt's thoughts on it. But the coronavirus, I think 2 Steelers were tested or found to be positive at on-site workouts, and some states are spiking across the country. So we might see a little bit of a drop-off in terms of the players that are able to practice. But we'll see if Matt can reconnect, and we'll hit on that in a little bit. The next topic Matt wanted to bring in anyway, so we'll see if we can get him back on because I wanted to get his take on this. But the FBI was doing an investigation into NASCAR after they found a noose in Bubba Wallace's hangar or locker. I don't know what they're called. I have the actual notice from them right here. I don't know if they have. They called it. I guess they just called it the garage. So now I sound like an idiot. They said that it was in the garage as early as October 2019, and different drivers cycle through the different garages. So they really don't know how or why it was there, but they're not investigating anymore because they realized that because it was there so long, it's not a recent racial move that someone had made as sort of a protest to go along with some of the other protests that are going along around the country. So we have that, and I wonder what else NASCAR is going to do, because they try to get rid of the Confederate flag, and people still brought them to the event outside of the stadium. And it's hard enough to police people coming into the stadium drunk inside, the things that are their control. And so I'm not sure how they're even going to be able to handle that or figure that out. It's almost as hard as what some of the teams and sports leagues that are looking at coming back with the virus, trying to limit that. At some point, you're going to have to just give it a good effort and see what happens and try to go from there. Because if we can have some sports starting up, then we're going to be able to get a feel for how some of the different stadiums have implemented changes and how things like that are going to be successful or not. Because, I talked about it last week about Major League Baseball and what they're trying to do. And I said that I didn't think they were coming back. It looks like the commissioner has the power to kind of just step in and make a final ruling. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the next contract negotiation, but in a matter of time, they might come back and be able to play a full-on event. Like, I'm not 100% sure what they're going to be able to do, but you're going to have a chance to have fans in the stands for baseball, a league where maybe, just maybe, you're able to step outside and have more of an outdoor environment basically a precursor to football, are they able to get it done and have something in place that maybe the Steelers can just copy? I'm talking about the Pirates now, because they're going to go ahead and have at least been able to play a couple of games, hopefully before football season starts. But we're getting later and later now, where I think they were doing some type of spring training type stuff. But for baseball to even start up, the players want more and more games. The owners don't want them. And you're running out of time. They want the October end, because when things start to cool down, they're worried the virus is going to pick up. And it makes 100% sense. So what else can they do? They're just going to have to kind of do it by trial and error, and possibly go away with no fans. And no fans in the stands for baseball hurts, because they live off that revenue. That's why they play so many games. I think some of the hockey and basketball, they don't really rely on that. And I mean, to be honest, I hate talking about it every week. But at this point, it's just something that's expected, because we're not really sure what's going to happen. Going back around, because it looks like I can't get a hold of Matt right now, the big thing is college football teams are getting programs that I might be able to get them right here. Let's see. You there, Matt?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. That's all right. I kept going. Want to give your thoughts on the Bubba Wallace ruling by the FBI?
Well, I was happy to see that the FBI moved. The NASCAR got the FBI involved. That they ruled that it wasn't, that they weren't out to get them in a racist type act. However, I still think that there's something to be said about, what do you do in NASCAR? How do you just casually just have random nooses just hanging around? Like, you're setting yourself up for all this negative publicity. And I don't understand why you would even put nobody checks those kinds of things and think, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. Then that's where I have an issue with it.
Well, yeah, they said it was in place since October. At what point do people not think, okay, that's weird? And also, they're talking about the coronavirus stuff, Matt, and having things cleaned out and disinfected. Wouldn't someone have noticed that? It's like the guys, you would just assume at the gas station where they have that checklist on the back of the door that says they cleaned the bathroom. I just assume that means a guy went in there and initialed his name. They're not disinfecting the bathroom every 2 minutes or every hour, whatever it is.
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts with it. Was that you're saying that it was back at least October, but why is it up in the first place? You're supposed to be representing a professional sport. In what kind of professional setting do you just go, hey, I'm just going to leave my noose hanging out? That's going to offend somebody, even if it's not a racial thing. I'm sure most people know of somebody that has committed suicide, and that can be triggering for a lot of people. So it's just having some common sense and common decency of maybe not putting that stuff out there.
And that is a good point, because just even having, I think things like that, personal belongings or whatever, even the fact that you're bringing it into a random garage that you're not tied to, because they said they rotate them all the time. And I wonder how many other races went through there and no one thought to let's just throw this away. I mean, you look at going to another extreme with the Iowa Hawkeyes, they have the pink visiting locker room. Teams are known to go in there and be oh, I'm not having this, and just put up their own temporary wallpaper and stuff just to get away from that. So I would assume some team would go in there and be what's this noose doing here? Why? I'm throwing this away. Or giving it to someone else, saying hey, head of the garage, why is this here? Because if not, that's a good way to get in, psych some other teammates out. I mean, you could put all kind of stuff up there if they don't ever check it. Who knows? So it's a weird thing. It'd be like a dugout too, and in baseball, you just have random things around it, decorate it, just to annoy the other team. Maybe teams should start doing that. I don't know if they have rules against that. Like, what was it? Was the Astros just have pictures of trash cans or that guy banging the trash can posted all over the visiting locker room or the dugout whenever they comes out? And that way they're like, oh, what in the world? Not this again. And it'll be in their heads the whole game. So, what else did I get on while you're having connection issues? Talked about that. Oh, I talked about the Confederate flags too. They tried to get rid of them in the stadium. And I likened it to possibly a guy, like you're sneaking in booze into the stadium. You can do everything you want, but there's always going to be a couple guys that get through. And whenever you have reports of it happening outside the stadium, at some point you don't even know if they're paying customers or what they're doing. It's just going to be too hard for them to clean that up immediately unless the fans start policing themselves. So I don't know what else they can do there.
Yeah. And you know, it always seemed like with NASCAR, a large part of their fan base was support. Like you would see Confederate flags and different stuff like that. So I think it would be tough for their sport to try to break that.
Yeah, it's going to be a total culture shock trying to get rid of all of their biases and things like that I think just goes with NASCAR. I don't know, though. I don't really watch it.
But the funny thing with that is that, like, you look at even just the stereotypes and you think, maybe not do the thing. You know, it looked like with them trying to bring racing back and different stuff that they have an opportunity to draw in a whole new market of people because of the lack of other sports being on TV and different stuff like that. Like if they marketed it right, it could really be something big for them. And now, because of this investigation, they have to like backtrack now and completely whiffed on the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the only sports that's running right now, if not the only one, like the major sport, because NASCAR gets so many people watching that you look at that and then you see like all the people in masks and they're coming out there and how they're able to handle it. It is just crazy the amount of support they could be getting. But then whenever you start your season and it's just a ton of controversy, like it can't be good. That's all I got to say with that. But I also wonder, because I'm looking back through NASCAR's history, just seeing some of like their champions and like going back through time, there's been champions on here that have barely won like any races. And I wonder if NASCAR could just try to get a push for, why don't we just go ahead and try to do like mini seasons or like a year-long league that never really stops? Because unlike the other sports, you really don't need a break from driving cars. So this could have been a nice coronavirus look at, hey, what are we doing here? What can we do to engage more fans? Because I think the ratings have been dropping. The fans have been falling off at NASCAR. Add in these other controversies, you're not going to be making any new fans. If anything, you're just going to have other people hate you. So Why not try to do something a little bit more exciting? But I really don't know what other ideas they could do. You have the different sections and the different models and things like that. But outside of just trying to keep fans engaged, like, I'll be honest, I didn't even know Bubba Wallace before this past weekend. So they're not really marketing their drivers well enough, at least to me. I really only know Jimmy Johnson's still around. I know Dale Earnhardt, I think Jr., he's going into one of the Hall of Fames or whatever, but I really don't know too many other drivers. And I don't know another way to make them more visible. But this could have been a way for them to really promote that. I just haven't seen them do it. The other thing I had that I mentioned while you were off were the coronavirus. It started with the Steelers. They had 2 people test in their facility positive, and then you look across college football, they have the rumors where LSU had to shut down. They had so many. I don't think they ever came out and said how many they had. I think Clemson had like 20 something, which is like a fourth of their team. Some of them were staff, so I'm not sure exactly how many of them. But looking at the season, it's just going to be hard. Like a team like that, I wonder if it gives them an advantage if you can't get it again. Because I think they said that they were looking at once you had it, you're probably not going to be able to get it again. They don't know for sure if it could mutate and be like the flu, where you could get the flu every year.
Ooh, I like a good conspiracy theory. Inject everyone with coronavirus so then they don't have to get it later.
It's not even that. It's just saying like, hey guys, let's all come in here for a big team meeting. Oh crap, we had 20 people here that were sick. You guys are probably all going to be sick now. And then next thing you know, it's over. I mean, you had all the controversies with Dabo before. The press just kind of swept it away. You saw their numbers coming back, and it just made me think, like, maybe they are just trying to let everyone have it, knowing that it's not really harmful for people that are athletic in the 20s. Like, I don't think there's going to be any numbers, or I don't even think there's been a fatality in that demographic. So if you have those, they have the top medical staffs anyway, and then they just figure they'll get it, and then it will happen. The big key thing is going to be when other students come back on campus, because are they going to be getting other players sick, other sports? Are they going to trickle down to the students? And then, of course, faculty and things like that, staff that are on campus. I don't know. So I'm wondering if it's going to affect the season. There's been some talk with the Big Ten that I've heard. I think we talked about it before. They had said that if possible, they would not if possible, but if it came down to it, they would cut the non-conference schedule out. And so you would just have the Big Ten conference, like, what do they play now? 9 games, and that's it. I've also heard a proposal that's on the table is to get rid of away games. And this is just for the Big Ten. I haven't heard this for any other conferences. Outside of conference, they're going to do away with away games, which I've been following closely because I think Michigan's supposed to travel to Washington to play the Huskies to start off the season. And I don't know if it's game 1 or 2, but they're traveling out there. I don't think that game's going to happen. So what the Big Ten will say is try to find a local team to come in last minute, which for the Big Ten would be a lot of MAC schools, maybe Conference USA, teams like that. They fill out the schedule, and then after that, they take that schedule and probably just count the Big Ten schedule like they do anyway. I don't know what the playoff committee would do if that happened, but if one major conference, like let's say Washington says, like, we're not going to be ready to play, Michigan cuts that game, they end up the season at, I think that's probably their only big non-conference, but let's say they run the table and lose to Ohio State again. You have a one-loss Michigan team with no non-conference wins. Where do you put them? Like, what do you do with that? And then same with, like, if Ohio State, they didn't play anyone out of conference and they run the table and they're undefeated, would other teams that possibly did keep those non-conference games, would that give them an edge? But I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Coach?
But I think that's one of the things that the playoff committee kind of looks at, where they say, we'll let the games play themselves out, and then they'll put in Clemson number 1, and they'll put Ohio State number 2, and then they'll just let it play itself out.
No, that's not how it works. Clemson and Ohio State have to be 2 and 3, so they play each other, because then Clemson eliminates them, and then they go on to play an SEC team, Matt. Alabama, LSU, someone like that. That's how the matchups work out. They can't have Ohio State play Alabama in the first round. Look what happened last time. They end up winning the national championship. You got to have them play Clemson. You got to give them 2 tough games in a row. Can't have them winning. But in all fairness, baseball's been talking about, if they do come back, let's just expand the playoffs. And for whatever reason, they want to expand it for next year too, which I think is dumb, but I also think it's going to be permanent because they have those contracts coming up. If baseball expands it, why would they ever go back? Like next year, if they run a full schedule, which I don't see why they wouldn't. If they have baseball this year, why wouldn't they next year? And then why would they need the expanded playoffs? They're just trying to get the money they lost this year back. And if they realize, holy crap, if we have more playoffs, we're going to make more money, they're going to keep it that way. And I wonder if college football would be forced to do that, where it goes back to like the 1930s, where everyone has different records. You have like a 4-0 Pitt, then you have like a 12-0 Army, and you're like, who's the national championship? Just split them. Pitt only played 4 games. They're like, I don't know. That's all. That's the only teams they can get to come play them. Like back in the day, if you look at some of the records, that's how it was. Maybe the 30s might be too late, but go back to the early 1900s. That's how the schedules were. I think Princeton has won national championship they only played 1 game. They're 1-0. Maybe Yale. Look at some of those records where people say, but look at how many national championships they have. Also count how many wins they have. Not that many. They're only playing each other and calling themselves national championships. That'd be like if we started a paper football league and we just named me and you played each other and that was it. And you were like the Super Bowl champion. That's basically what college football was back in the day. A couple schools made it up and they declared themselves champions of the world. Like no one else is playing this right now. We can make up our own sport, but
well, that's the perfect opportunity to do that when you know you have a chance to win.
Yeah, so now you have this like weird season. If they don't expand the playoffs, how many UCFs are they going to have that end up undefeated at like 5-0 or 8-0 in their small conferences? The bowl games don't happen because of reasons. And then what? Like Arizona's getting hammered now. Like, well, what's to say a state like that doesn't get hammered in bowl season and they have to cancel all their bowl games? And then you have all these smaller conferences that we're going to go play, and they just end up undefeated.
That might work out for a lot of coaches, though. Just win your games and then claim a national championship and get that bonus money for winning a national championship. Because I'm sure a lot of them have, if we're conference champions, pay increase. If we win a national championship, get X amount bonus.
Oh, they pretty much all have that now. Because a lot of schools are getting away from the long guaranteed contracts after like the Charlie Weiss debacle, where you're still getting paid decades later. And then you have schools that they're like, okay, well, if you win me this, you win me this. But then that's where you get into like issues. I think Bill Self, he's looking at, if he didn't already, suing the NCAA for like trying to take that away from him at Kansas. Because Oklahoma State in basketball, and this is switching to basketball if you don't follow college sports, but they're in that FBI investigation. Oklahoma State had the 1-year ban. Their best player said they're coming back. Their lawyers right now, from what I've seen, are starting to put the injunctions in place so they can play in the tournament this year if it happens. And you get the number 1 recruit or whatever, you make sure that season plays. Just keep filing your things and wait till the very last day, just like UNC did. And then eventually it will take long enough that what's going to happen? They're going to have to name some of these other schools. And if Oklahoma State's the only one that's named, their lawyers can just sue the NCAA just like Bill Self's getting ready to do. He's saying that it's going to hurt his thing. And it comes back to me, like, I wonder, why didn't Chip Kelly do that? If Nike was really handling those recruits in California that got him the show clause penalty or whatever, why doesn't he just come back and sue the NCAA and try to make like lost wages? I know it's been years and he's back at UCLA, but it's like, why would one coach do it but not any other coach? It's setting a dangerous precedent where if they get scared off by Bill Self's lawsuit, they really can't touch any coach ever again. And all of those other coaches can come back, assistants or non-assistants, whatever, and they can just open a whole can of worms. So it's going to be crazy. They missed the first tournament since I've been alive, and then what happens? Chaos. Anything else you have for college sports?
Negative.
What about the NFL? I lost you there, so I just stuck with the Steelers.
Honestly, I haven't really heard anything new.
Yeah, just Ben's off the field issues, but he's coming back, baby. He has it. He's ready to go. And like I said, when Matt got cut off, dude, he wrecked his motorcycle, wins the Super Bowl. Now he's in his 40s or close to it if he's not. Has off the field issues, comes back, wins the Super Bowl possibly. Nah. I'm saying the odds of that aren't good. I would say right now, you have a better chance of Tom Brady winning in Tampa Bay than the Steelers do this year. It's been a weird year, though. So maybe someone that does have franchise continuity can push through, and that could be the Steelers. Because they have won in some weird years. Things aren't standard, but everything's business-like for them.
This would be a year to do it.
Well, that's why I wanted baseball to come back. I mentioned, I think when you were off, that the Pirates, if they were able to start having some games, give it like a test run, how the Steelers could handle an outdoor stadium, workouts and all this other stuff, I was hoping they would already be playing by now, or at least having games so that they're ready to start in July. Who knows what's going to happen, though? Because they can have all the World of Disney basketball games, but it doesn't compare to the NFL having outdoor games. And so maybe you just have some type of set plan in place, and then you just go from there. But I would like to see it. Speaking of pro football, the XFL is supposedly having quite a bidding war where they think it could come back next year possibly. And so if that were to happen, I would be shocked that someone bought it. But I'm curious now if one of the invested parties is Disney. Because we talked about it for weeks. I don't know how many weeks there were. But every week, the XFL was beating the numbers that Disney was putting out for the NBA. They paid billions of dollars for that NBA contract. And you had random football teams beating it. I mean, it wouldn't be an easy investment to make, but I think with all of their college football like investment over the years, why wouldn't it be them? I mean, you have some dark horses, and like just for visibility's sake, I hope it's not NBC. They messed up the first time. I hate their hockey presentation and how you can barely watch any of the games and everything's blacked out. But ESPN of late has been pretty open with like their ESPN Plus and all their other things. So why not give them something else to watch and have the XFL and try to get some extra content out of that? Because they could also open up and just, since they own the league, do like training camps or like even combine type profiles and try to pick up players that they hyped up in college that I've talked about. That's what I was hoping the XFL did. If Disney or another big network, CBS maybe, were to buy it and they went that direction, I think it could be very successful. But you have to hit it quick. Because like if a player like Johnny Manziel, he only has a year to make it. He wasted that year in the CFL. Like they have to get got big name guys that wash out. And you think, okay, well, that's a big name guy. Oh, he didn't really make a roster. Oh, yeah, he was kind of a tweener. He didn't have a position. But then the XFL snatches him up and gives him a shot. Who knows what could happen?
Well, you see what happens. A lot of those guys got NFL contracts now that are at least going to have an opportunity to try to compete to be on an NFL roster. So, I mean, you look at another marketing opportunity that you can say, hey, you're not going to get paid. You're getting paid in the $40,000-$50,000 a year range, most of those guys. So they're not doing it for the money, but it's, hey, you're going to get the exposure that if you think you're good enough to play in the NFL, you didn't have the college, you didn't get drafted out of college, then it gives you that second opportunity to make a squad.
And that's a good point. Some other potential bidders, like, could the NFL be interested? There's also been thrown around that maybe some of the smaller football conferences are just putting a bid in just for the equipment. Now, if like a TV network is serious about having some content, I'm sure they could outbid a small conference if they're just trying to get equipment on the cheap. But wouldn't it be weird if after all this hype, just some small conference no one's ever heard of in like Idaho ends up buying the league just to get all of the equipment? Because there's probably top of the line stuff. And I mean, more like could be even a high school league. Just wanted some extra helmets and pads and things like that. But that's what we're looking at. I mean, you have some of the other football things that could have happened that just didn't because the year ended so weird. So it's going to be a big kicker if they're able to get some of these sports back. But Matt, what are you doing with the start of Pennsylvania? I know Pennsylvania started sports back up. I saw a couple baseball games going on as I recently traveled there. So I know that sports have opened back up. I know some opened back up too and immediately were shut down after coronavirus spread. But what are you looking at in terms of football coming back?
With our personal schedule, I gave our athletes a week this week here to pick up their release forms because they have to sign waivers to be able to participate. And we're actually going to be starting this coming Monday. We're going to be in the mornings and back out on the field doing some on-field stuff, trying to get ready for the season.
All right, cool. It's going to be a big challenge just getting schools together and having that type of thing. I've been worried that one school or one state is going to pull that trigger and end things early. Because, I mean, it's good now that some of the, I guess they're amateur, like the travel leagues are already underway so that they can see that some of this can work. It's just a big question mark right now if schools come back or not and what they're going to do with that. Because I think the University of Michigan announced that they're coming back and they're planning to have stuff on campus and looking at like hybrid classes or whatever they can do to try to give that distance. But that's only one state to look at it. There's going to be first battle on both sides of it. But in terms of other sports that are going on, I don't know. We will just wait and see.
I think a lot of it's going to just basically hinge on how the election goes. And I'm worried that sports is going to be used as a political bargaining chip to try to push for one candidate or another to be elected.
And that's just not for president, what Matt's getting at. If you don't follow politics a lot, you're looking at governors or senators. I don't know who's up for election this year, but some of them, yeah, you're 100% right. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Because I've already seen a couple ads because they've started early. I feel like they start early every time there's an election. But I've seen a couple pushing that, like, hey, I've got this bill passed. I'm going to keep you safe from coronavirus. So I can only imagine the political ads are going to be 100 times more annoying this year. So I like the fact checkers are going to have their work cut out for them. Because they have to, the guy says he voted for this. You go online, it says that he definitely didn't vote for that. And then you're like, who's telling the truth here? I do like how Facebook's starting to cut some of those out. Or I guess they don't get rid of the ad. Because I hate when they censor them. But I do like if it says like fact checked, or you can just check it here. And if they would just go ahead and link right to the government thing. Because like the Senate has like a senate.gov that shows the way the candidate votes. And I think that'd be pretty handy just across social media if they started to just link to the direct document Like, don't give me some fluff piece about like New York Times or something where someone's having a 300,000 word opinion piece on it. Like, just show me, did he vote? Yes or no? Like, you're talking about like the relief aids and things like that. Like, oh yeah, he tried to reopen the country, and then you look that he voted no during that session. So, probably going to be political. You're right. I'm already dreading it. In terms of personal sports, Matt, my 10K, talked about last week. Training's been going good. What has this been? 5-6 days? When was our last show? I started running the next day. So I signed up Tuesday. I put it out on our Instagram. I don't know if I put it on our Twitter or not. It might have just been on my personal Twitter, but you can check it out at Richie Leahy. My confirmation email. So I ran Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Took a weekend break. Back into it today. Dude, third day on Friday. I was running in like these light shoes just through a field because I figured I didn't want to beat up my legs too bad. I tramped on like a corn stalk that was cut perfect, cut right through my shoe. Cut me right in the bottom of the foot. I was like, I wasn't even in because I have a Garmin like fitness watch. And so I've been using that to kind of keep my pace. I think I said on the show last week, my goal is to just do 10-minute pace. I haven't ran in years. So if I can do a 10-minute pace, that's a nice jog. If I can do that for the 10K, I can get their average speed, which they said is like 50 to 70 minutes. So that's my goal, is to get into the average time on the Big Ten website in a couple weeks, which might not be doable, but we'll see what happens. But I'm like 0.3 of a mile in. Tramp on this, I'm like, oh, did it get me? I didn't know. Like, at first you just feel the pain, and I thought, oh, I hope I didn't roll my ankle. Then I'm like, I've had those issues before. I'll just keep jogging. So I jogged. I forgot about it. I go inside and I just look down and my foot's just covered in blood. And I was like, oh man, I remember I tramped on that thing. So I looked and you could just see the puncture wound. So I didn't stop. So I don't know exactly what I stepped on, but I'm assuming it was some type of like stem or stalk from like some thick thing, maybe a stick. I don't know. But pain still lingering whenever I run on it. But other than that, I'm all right. I'm at my 10-minute pace today. I've been trying to increase a little bit each day. I looked at some of the running things, Matt. It's like, hey, how to get ready for a 5K in 12 weeks. I'm like, I don't even have that much time. I need to speed this up. Then I look at the thing and it's like, run for 10 minutes at a casual pace. Take 4 days rest. Then run for 10 minutes. I'm like, who is that out of shape where you can only run 1 day a week or 2 days a week? Like, if you're that bad, then you need to get kicking. Because like I would assume those people, like, if you can only jog at a 10-minute pace for like need a 3-day rest, I'm sorry, but you need to get in shape. So take this as me calling you out. I'm getting in shape. I'm running the 10K. It's the last week of July. And I'm going to try to talk about it on the show after the fact, because I don't want to just get in shape for the show, run the 10K, post my time or whatever, and then be done with it. So maybe I'll make this a weekly segment. I don't know. But I'm going to motivate you. Don't be that guy. Don't be that lazy guy. Go out and do something. Because what else are you doing? You're cropped in your house. You can't go out. I mean, some gyms are open. I think in North Carolina, I was going to hit up the gym, and they said that I can only get in if I have a doctor's note saying that I'm so out of shape that I need to exercise or I could die. So I don't think I'd qualify for that. So it's just running for me. No weights. So that's going to stink. I'm not going to be able to cycle that in. But I'll post up. Actually, I'll try to post some stuff as I get settled back in. Maybe if for people that are looking for ideas or whatever, but that's definitely what I'm doing. Anything you're doing, Matt, to stay in shape during these times?
Just continuing to run, continuing to lift with some kettlebell stuff. Same stuff I normally do, just to make sure that I'm ready, because before you know it, football will be here.
And I've had some people ask, like, what do you do to stay focused, like working from home or whatever? Because it's been months. Definitely listen to our podcast. Tell your friends if they're looking for things to do. Tell them to download our show. Listen to it. Take breaks and work out. because I've been getting away from it. But what I used to do is just you can even do it on the hour. Just bust out some push-ups. What I'm actually gonna start doing is doing some squats, because I think that will help with the leg stamina. If you just bust out 100 body weight squats randomly throughout the day,
there you go.
Do things like that. Like you're working from home. Another thing that we've been doing is like we're starting like a walk thing. Just call some friends, and this is through my work, so you might not have this, but they do like a video chat with just some friends where you don't talk about work. You just go outside and walk. So I thought that was a cool idea I heard. But definitely get outside. You're working from home. Work outside. Get some fresh air and hang out there. Sports might be coming back. Who knows? But at least take advantage and try to get yourself in shape. So that's my last bit. Anything else you got, Matt?
I second it. And if you're still bored, go to our website. Check it out. There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah, or call into the show. I've reached out every time someone comments me some long opinionated thing. I'm like, call into the show, and then they like make their profile private, or they delete it, or like delete their own profile. I'm like, who goes through the trouble to make a profile just to talk trash on our podcast? Crazy. Some people must have a lot of free time on their hands. Is all I can say. Hopefully get some better news next week in terms of sports starting back up. But like I said, I think it might just be NASCAR, because basketball, they're still looking at August. Baseball, who knows? I haven't seen the timetable for the NHL yet, so we'll just keep waiting and see if football starts on time. I haven't heard any other news on that Hall of Fame game, though. Talked about it last week. Could that Ohio cancel that game and then give the Steelers a couple extra weeks of training or workouts without having a preseason game that early? I don't know. We'll see. But go to southboundsports.com. Tell your friends. Make sure you download the show. We're still doing it. And thanks for listening. We will see you next week.